Premier Networks presents Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from December 29th, 1998.
Good morning, or good evening if you are to the west of me, here or to the west. In these many time zones, I'm Art Bell, and this is Coast to Coast AM. Robert Ghostwolf is just around the corner. Robert Ghostwolf is Matei. He is of mixed blood, Native American origin. He's been here before. We'll kind of have him run down his background for you. One thing he is known for is that which you are listening to, by name at least, Ghost Dance and Native American Prophecy. And we're going to be talking about all of that. Something called the Seven Thunders tonight. So I warn you, this kind of information can be very disturbing to some people. Children probably should not be listening. They should be in bed by now anyway. Even adults who are disturbed by prophecy, which can sometimes be worrisome, should probably turn off their radios, have a hot toddy, and go to bed. For the rest, who are not afraid to at least listen, Robert Ghostwolf will be here shortly.
You're listening to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from December 29th, 1998.
I received a terribly distressing piece of email the other day, actually, and I was hesitant to say anything about it because I don't like announcing people's demise before their time. And heaven knows the Internet has been famous for doing that. I've been dead on there 3 or 4 times at least. And I got email saying that a recent guest I had on, Speaking Wind, had died. And then I got another one. And I got another one. And still I thought, no, be careful. I picked up the phone, I called Speaking Wind's number, and I got his answering machine and asked for a return call, and it was his voice on the answering machine. And so I still, to this moment, have announced nothing. I'm afraid it is going to be the first order of business to confirm that terrible rumor. It is apparently true. Robert Ghostwolf, welcome to the program.
Hello, Roy.
Been too long since I've had you on.
A lot of things happen.
That's right. Before we do anything at all, though, what can you tell me about Speaking Wind? I mean, I spoke to him. Obviously, we did a long show on the air, wonderful show, and he sounded great. And then a few days later, I hear he's dead.
Well, I spoke with, connected with his home in today. Because I also got several emails, and I was like, this can't be happening. This man's as strong as a horse.
That's what I thought too.
And he's got a good heart. He's healthy, but it was confirmed to me that on the 22nd of December at 8 a.m. he passed over. He died of a coronary heart attack.
Oh my God!
So
the 22nd.
To his son, White Raven, and to his family down there in the Pueblos, I'd like them to just, know that a very good man with a very good heart that spent his whole life fighting for peace and understanding will not go unremembered.
Wow.
I'm still in shock.
Yeah, is there anything else we know at all, or imagine we know? Because I guess people. How old was he?
He was in his 50s.
50s.
Just a kid. All I know is that it is true, and the family is with the son now, and send our prayers and our support. I know that his son has worked very closely with Speaking Wind, and he probably could use all the moral support that he can get right now.
All right, well, we'll all send our wishes, and in the meantime, I'll try and get that show repeated as soon as I can. In fact, I will do that. So I'm so sorry to hear that. Boy, I guess it makes you think a little bit about your own mortality.
Yeah, mortality touches home real quick.
Yeah, I'm in my 50s. I mean, I could be gone tomorrow. We all could, I guess.
Well, maybe it's time to stop wasting time.
Yeah, maybe it is. So let us not waste it now. If you would just take a second, tell everybody, particularly new listeners who may not have heard you before, Robert, a little bit about yourself.
I'm an author and an artist and a ceremonial leader for the Métis people. The Métis is a mixed-blood American, Native American. And I've been doing what I've been doing now for close to 40 years, since I was a kid being trained. And I have become known for Prophecies and the work that I do with the Native people. And as I usually say when I say this, as mixed bloods, we're the ghost children. Probably a larger percentage of the population in America has got Native American blood somewhere in the family tree. And if we travel through the world, we'll see that most people in the world today, especially in today's world, are mixed blood somehow. And I do not represent any particular people, which is also part of what makes it hard when I do go up and speak, because I'm speaking basically from my own heart and from my own understandings. I'm very close to the Hopi and to the Mayan people, which is where most of my knowledge of the ancient prophecies and the calendars and when these things will occur and how they're going to occur comes from. And that's basically what I'm about in a nutshell.
All right. With regard to prophecy, of course, Speaking Wind had a lot to say about that, and you have had in the past. We have some absolutely astounding photographs tonight on your website. And when we send people up there to see what you're going to talk to them about, your website is going to come to a crawl. So we have taken, I think, the most important 4 or 5 photographs and made them available on our website as well. So you all should know that now, and you should get up to the website. These images involve the sun, and they involve the 7 thunders. And briefly, let us recap, if you would, what are the 7 thunders, Robert?
The 7 thunders are prophecies that basically were birthed at a meeting in Taos, New Mexico, of Native elders and spiritual leaders back in the early 80s. I think it was 82 exactly to be exact. And the 7 thunders were the events that would happen that everyone agreed upon from the different nations that would be essentially inevitable, but they would tell us how close we were coming to the time of purification, so that we would have something to gauge our minds on, because Native people don't work in the sense of it's going to happen in this year, at this time, at this hour. They base their knowledge on where the stars are, where the constellations come into alignment, and this is how they use their calendars. It basically comes off a Venus calendar, which is what the Mayans use a lot. And if we go back through prophecy, if we go to the Bible, if we go to the Quran, we see that this is the basic method that was used, was to determine dates in the future based on the Venus calendar, where Venus would be in certain times, certain periods, and what would happen in correlation with that. And the 7 thunders, I think when we spoke about them earlier this year, we had already moved into the 5th thunder, which is where we would see strange mutations amongst animals. We would see children being born and animals being born with missing limbs. And we would see the poisoning of the waters, and we would see the 3 demons come out in the waters, and this is where we saw the hysteria that was killing all the fish.
Right.
And the thing that we were going up to at that point, and I sort of tried to stay away from the 7th thunder, was because when we hit the time of the 7th thunder was when we would basically lose time. Everything would speed up. There would be such a quickening, to use a play on words, which you wrote about, and we're at such a point now where things are quickening so much that we have moved several, at least seasons ahead of time, and we've moved through the 6th and into the 7th. And as we come into the 7th thunder, this is when we see a lot of volcanic activity. We see a lot of earthquakes beginning, and we see a lot of strange things happening with the weather. And this is all part of what we'll be talking about with what's happening right now, because
Would you be kind enough to define purification for me?
The purification, in my words, means that we will be purified in our thoughts, in our actions, and the corrupt consciousness that has been allowed to evolve here would come to an ending, because we would be merging into the 5th world. The 5th world can be either the world of paradise, or it can be the world of complete darkness. It depends on the choices that we make. And the purification was that none of the corruptness would be allowed to go into this 5th world.
Well, I remember when you brought me, thank you so much, the Hopi, and we did the entire show with the Hopi elders, and
right.
They talked constantly about the corruption.
And the corruption can be so subtle, you know. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily evil, although a lot of evil is being birthed at this time, or rebirthed at this time. The corruption is in the way that we turn away from ourselves, we turn away from Source, the way we turn away from our own truths. I mean, and if we look at what's happening in society, it's become, we have based almost everything on corruption, including the language. No offense to any of the attorneys. But even the language that we use in our judicial systems, nobody can understand it, and it can have 7 different meanings and go from one side to the other.
Oh, I know.
And we're dealing with the breaking up of families. We're dealing with the hopelessness and the malaise in children. We're seeing all of this in the world. We're seeing a situation where we go, yes, the waters are polluted, we have a problem, but industry has to go on. This is part of what we're talking about with the corruption, you see. It can be very subtle, or it can be very poignant and very blatant.
The stories about our environment just go on and on and on and on. I literally stack them up here. On any given night, I could just yank one out and read it. But every day now, I'm getting more and more stories about the condition of our environment and animals that are beginning to die, just plain die, and
in large numbers.
And in large numbers, and a lot of people are sort of just shrugging it off. But obviously, something very serious is going on.
Well, also, I think one of those stories that you get, you mentioned earlier on the show about the sun. And this is very important for how we're going to find a direction here. There are many stories that talk about certain occurrences that happen in cyclical events. In other words, every so many years this happens, every so many years this happens in the heavens, every so many years we've seen these kinds of destructions. And as we go through the petroglyphs that are here in North America, or if I go through the Mayan codexes and work with them, there are patterns that appear. And one of the patterns that appears that tells us about this end time has got to do with something that will occur with the sun. And apparently there's been several times throughout our history, and the petroglyphs that I found in Arizona, after I had gotten through with the Colorado expedition, brought us into a linear form of explanation of how these events had happened. That there had been great destructions here periodically. That approximately 1,200 years ago we had a massive destruction here where all of the trees in the South Midwest just leveled. Great forest just leveled. There was a tremendous earthquake. And that many of the rocks that we see, there's this great scorching on the rocks, and we'll see places where trees that have been buried and are fossilizing have been charred. and there is a prophecy that talks about the sun giving birth to a new solar sun, and that it keeps going through labor pains, keeps going through contractions, and as these contractions keep happening on a regular basis, and they are calculated, and the next one is supposed to be within the next 2 years.
The next 2 years?
The next 2 years.
All right, we'll come back to that. Associated Press, today. This is today's story. A disease that attacks the bone structure of young fish has now wiped out 90% of Colorado's wild rainbow trout in 6 of the state's best trout streams. The study by the Colorado Division of Wildlife also found that whirling disease, you've heard of that, has reached now 12 of the state's 15 trout hatcheries, threatening the state's $420 million a year fishing industry. They said, quote, "It's like getting pounded by a sledgehammer," end quote. That's it. I mean, animals of all sorts, at the lower end of the chain, albeit, but nevertheless, creatures of the earth are beginning to die out. There's got to be a big, big message there.
There's a big message. What are people going to hear it? This goes on now with the sun. 2 years ago, essentially 2 years ago, there was an alignment. And the alignment happened between the planets and the constellations. Mm-hmm. And basically, somehow, the sun didn't get into the right position the way it should have been, which is an important thing, I think, to bring out as we go through prophecies. People very often confuse prophet, psychic,
I know,
and empathic together. They are 3 different terms for 3 different things. When you're working with prophecy, it's like, it isn't like, it is doing a form of remote vision. And you lock in on a timeline, and you proceed linearly along this timeline, and you pick up information of things that will occur based on circumstances at the present time, if they evolved.
Well, when I did the show with the Hopi elders,
right,
they seemed convinced, Robert, as you recall, that the events coming are now events that virtually cannot be stopped. In other words, they're just about locked in stone.
In Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from December 29, 1998.
Actually, my guest this night is Robert Ghostwolf, Native American Mate, Robert Ghostwolf. He'll be back in a moment. We're talking about prophecy. By the way, let me repeat this hour. I got this very, very interesting email which says, Art, it's from Dave in San Jose. I don't know if you've heard about this yet, but Matt Drudge, has said on WABC that he's going to break the biggest story ever in 2 weeks, and that it will shake up the whole world. On record as saying it has nothing to do with politics, used phrases like, after the dust settles, we'll assess the impact, and shake up the whole world. Phrases like that, what could he possibly mean? Somebody sends me the following email. Art, well, let me think. Earth shaking, dust settles, whole world, biggest story ever? Hey, Art, can you say deep impact?
Coast to Coast AM sure sounds great in the middle of the night. But you know, you don't have to be nocturnal to enjoy this amazing show. The Coast Insider is your key to a normal life. For 15 cents a day, you can wake up refreshed knowing that last night's show is waiting for you with podcasting. As a member, you'll have access to our monthly live chat sessions with George Noory and special guests. The Coast Insiders Club is a must-have feature for all Coast to Coast AM listeners. Visit coasttocoastam.com to sign up today.
Get a new view of the world with Coast to Coast AM.
At this point, I'm not happy with the direction that government is taking us. I'm happy with the fact that Americans are beginning to wake up and stand up and do what they have to do, and shout and scream and blog, and I think that's critical. And I think that's what's going to save the Republic. I think in the long run, as we go through all this stuff, it's the people who will save us, and our country will remain strong.
Now, we take you back to the past on Art Bell Somewhere in Time.
This one may be true. I've got multiple reports now, so I will read it to you. It apparently occurred in Scotland. It's entitled, Storm Sparks Major Nuclear Alert at Plant. A full-scale emergency was declared at a Scots nuclear station when fierce winds knocked out the power to cool its reactors. Last night, the plant remained shut down. After bosses pressed the alarm button on Sunday, they couldn't restart the backup generators, vital to keep the reactor's 2 cores from overheating. Frightened staff were called from their homes and battled for 5 hours to manually try to reset the safety systems before the cores went, in quotes, critical. A boss also was rushed under police escort to Hunterston B in Ayrshire, wherever that is, it was claimed. The astonishing situation sparked fears of a Chernobyl-type reactor meltdown. Happened after storms took out the national grid twice in the space of 12 hours. The first time at 11 p.m. on Saturday, the emergency backup generators at the nuclear plant switched on automatically, but there were not enough staff on duty to manually reset them before the grid went down a second time at 11 a.m. on Sunday, leaving the plant bosses helpless. An investigation is being carried out by the Nuclear Installations Inspectorate. A spokeswoman said last night, quote, 2 of our inspectors were called in as soon as the alarm was raised on Sunday. Our investigations continue. There was no power to the system that cools the reactor for a number of hours, and we do consider this a serious incident. End quote. That's from the Sunday Mail, the Daily Record and Sunday Mail. Bet you hadn't heard that. Robert, welcome back.
Hello.
All right. Our sun. You have several photographs of our sun taken by SOHO, which is a satellite out in space, I believe about 1 million miles, which looks at the sun. We had lost SOHO for a while, and they somehow regained it.
Well, we just lost it again.
We lost it again?
Yeah, we lost it again just a few days ago. After we had done the Impact 2000 event in Las Vegas, and we brought out information about it, and we brought out information about the weather anomalies, and that it was from the SOHO site, like within about 7 days, 8 days, we got news that it's down again, and it'll be down for several months.
For several months.
So to quote Richard Hoagland one more time, oh my God, they've killed Soho again.
Before Soho died, however, it did snap a few interesting photographs, and somehow or another they fit in with some prophecy, don't they?
They absolutely do, and before we go into this, because you and I are famous for bringing down the web, if I could give just two numbers out so if people do lose contact, they can call up, because we have like over 600 pages of correlated prophecies here that we've come up with in the last year.
All right.
And we're putting out a newsletter so that, because there's so much, that the only way we could approach it was by putting a newsletter out every month to put up updates on everything that's happening based on the prophecies and on scientific evidence that the prophecies are occurring. And we have an 800 line, 800-905-8367. That's 800-905-8367. If people are in Canada, they can call us in Washington at 509-465-1606.
What's the name of the newsletter?
It's called The Wolf Report.
The Wolf Report. Good.
And we'll have people from Richard Hoagland to Dr. Stephen Greer to Zachariah Sitchin reporting information to us, the Mayan elders, the Hopis, information to us almost on a weekly basis.
All right.
So it might be something that if people want to find out what they're going to do in the next 12 months, they might want to keep posted.
It's going to be an interesting year, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a movie. We're about to enter a movie. To get to the sun, why the sun? Why did I pick the sun now? You know me personally, and you know that I have extreme reservations about the UFO community.
I know, yes.
Too much backstabbing, so on and so forth.
Yep.
The minute anything comes up, they're too busy to get into an argument and fight rather than find out what the actual facts could be. Well, we were told in the native world, based on our calendars and when these things would happen, that going back to Hale-Bopp from the Native American point of view, this was the comet that represented the two tails, the twins. When the twins were in the sky, we would have time to change our ways. But once the twins were no longer in the sky, certain things would be set. And we would know that within 18 months of the twins disappearing, we would see the purifier come in the sky. Now, the purifier would be stationary, and the purifier represented those that some call the watchers, the ones who were watching how we were progressing. When the purifier appeared in our heavens, we would have less than 3 years before the end time.
3 years?
3 years.
End time meaning?
We would go into the fifth world.
In other words, okay, let's define things as we go. There are a lot of people out there who go, fifth world?
We are now in the fourth world. We come through 3 worlds. This is the fourth world. It's the world of the animal. The first world was the spirit world. The second world was the mineral world. The third world was the plant kingdom, the vegetable world. The fourth world is the world of the animal. This is where mankind came from the spirit and moved into the flesh to experience what we're experiencing now in our evolutionary path. We would go through trials at this time, living in 3-dimensional reality. We would go through trials of understanding our emotions and how our thoughts worked and how we manifested and how we didn't manifest, until we learned how to walk in this new form in a balanced way. When the end times come, and I always thought it was interesting how no matter where you went, whether you went to Judeo-Christian, or whether you went to Tibetan, or whether you went to Buddha, or whether you went to the Mayan, or whether you went to Lakota, everyone spoke about the end time. What do you mean the end time? And it was that time was basically an illusion. It was created for our experience as we would move into the fifth world. And as we come to the end of the fourth world, this is when we would see many changes and we would have to watch the signs. According to the Mayan calendar, which is probably the most accurate record that's been kept in its entirety, by the year 2012, this world that we are now in, the fourth world, will no longer be, and we will fully be in the fifth world. Today, we have terms like the shift.
Right.
When the shift happens. What was going on from, let's say, the last 20 years, 22 years that was bringing us up to this time of the shift? Because native people millennium doesn't mean anything to them. Okay? Millennium is a word that we use in our society. Today, it's a contemporary word. But as we were coming into this, we would notice certain things like time speeding up, people speeding up. Whatever the conditions were, they would become greatly accelerated. They would become greatly intensified. Everything would begin to quicken, which is where I came into the term, the quickening, because everything started to speed up. Our time, our emotions, our relationships.
I know.
Everything's just going faster and faster and faster, like being on a merry-go-round that has no brakes. Now, as we come toward this end time, again, I refer back to the Venus calendar. If we go back to where the Mayans started to calculate, as far as we can tell with accuracy, we're talking about beginning from 1475. There would be 5 full cycles of the dawn star. In these 5 full cycles of the dawn star, our tendency toward war and self-destruction, they refer to it as orgies of destruction, would intensify and there would be total chaos. And that we would then go to a time toward the end of the 5 full cycles of the dawn star where the dawn star itself would vanish from view. Now, there's not enough time to get into this here, but there are times and locations on the Earth where sometimes Venus rises in the morning and sometimes it rises at night.
Correct.
So when we're talking about the dawn star, we're talking about the morning star. And up on my site, if people go later to the full story that I'm putting on about Stargate 2, there are numerous prophecies from the Buddhists to the Tibetans, to the Bible, to the Book of Mormon, to Lakota, to Hopi, to Mayan, that all refer to the morning star. And all of the prophecies are based upon the morning star. When we come into these end times, and we'll get to them either before or after, we would see certain signs, and the signs would tell us that we would have to look closely through the heavens. Mainly, watch the sun, because those that would be coming, our ancestors, those that would return from beyond the stars, promised that they would come back with these signs. As we look toward the heavens, as I've done numerous things now over the past year and a half intensively with the Mayan, we kept saying, it's going to happen very soon. But people aren't listening. So my job, being who I am, I always get elected for the fun jobs, was to correlate what they were trying to tell everybody with prophecy, because they've gone several times to the UN, they've gone several times to, they've had motion picture people come in and documentary people come in who would say, well, we'll present all of this, we'll bring it out for you, but no one was listening. They said, but you can talk to the scientists, they talk to you. Tell them to look for these things. And when they see these things, maybe people will understand how important these prophecies are. Because we are literally out of time. So what does the end time mean? I said to the Mayan elder in Yucatan, and he said, it means the end of time. Time will literally stop. I said, well, what do we look for? He says, well, the star people, they'll come back from the sun, and there's a specific period. The period will be between December 15th of 1998 and February of 1999.
In other words, we're in that period now.
We are now in that period. Now, when you are dealing with many nations, when I'm dealing with what the Mayan have to say and what the Hopi have to say, besides the fact that most of the time you have to drive there by car, because they don't believe in telephones and modern technology.
All right.
You piece together what people are saying. Now, the Mayans are talking about this specific time. The specific time is the time that the purifier appeared. Now, there is this time period where the ships will come, light ships, the ships that we saw in the heavens, the ships that you see in the Egyptian tombs, the ships you see on the hieroglyphics, the ships you see in the petroglyphs.
Those who have been here before.
Those who have been here before, our ancestors, will come back.
Are coming back.
And they will, and that correlates totally with the purifier being in the sky. Now, what brought me to these pictures was we have been watching not only the weather anomalies, for the last 2 years. Because how do you prove a prophecy? How do you know that a prophecy has substance? I mean, what's the difference between a prophet and a lunatic? It depends on the time of day. You know? But if you say that something's going to occur, and it occurs, then suddenly you get the Snuff Candle Award, and you're the prophet of the year.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Exactly right.
But if you say it's going to happen, and it doesn't occur, it's like, well, that didn't happen. When we looked at what was going on with Soho, we started to notice some very strange things in the photographs.
By the way, just let me quickly stop you, because I know what we're about to get into, and we're up against the hour, but I have talked to not just prophets, but remote viewers who work, I believe, as prophets. I share that view with you, by the way, who keep saying, something is coming back. Now, I've heard that phrase now from any number of people I've interviewed, that something is going to return. And that does fit in, doesn't it?
Well, here's a quote from the Mayan prophecy about what's happening with the Dawn Star. It says, that which is to come in the future is merely that which comes again, and that which was. Mm-hmm. This will pass from this plane forever. This time will pass from this plane forever. For all will become that which is in the turning of 3.5 days.
In the turning of 3.5 days.
So where we are now, and what people can look at, and before we even get into that, because I know we're going to have 5,000 people come up and say, well, I've seen that, or this is not what that is.
I know.
That's good. I am not saying I am the President of the United States and I'm authorizing this, because I know better now. What I'm saying is we looked at something. I have footage that is unbelievable, but I can't figure out how yet in our tech department to get it to show clearly on the Internet. We have been able to produce this film where you can see beyond a question of a doubt. Now, I don't know if that's deliberate that you can't show it on the Internet. But what we're looking at is something that everyone should look at and decide for themselves. Because we've looked around a lot, and I know Stephen Greer has some incredible footage of UFOs.
I know.
But we're looking at lights.
Now, I heard, this was not too long ago, Robert, I heard that Soho had captured an unusual image. The image, they said, of a comet that could not be seen here on Earth, but was seen by Soho. Is that true?
Well, they call it a comet. They also called it Mars because it had a reddish color, like the Purifier. That would be the red comet. And they've called it Saturn. But I think when people look at what we've put together, I don't think it's Mars. And the reason why I'm bringing this out now is because this is the time that the elders said they're coming home. We are now in the final days. The clock can no longer be turned back. All we have to do now is walk forward. It's the time where we walk in two worlds. One foot is in this world, the fourth world, the world of the animal, three-dimensional. The other world is in the fifth world. And as we look at what's happening with our bodies, as you look at what's happening with our emotions, as we look at what's happening with our animals, as we look at what's happening with our weather, we're reaching a point where now I understand what they meant when they said to me, in this time, in these final days, you will not be able, we cannot prophesize anything because things will change so rapidly as these worlds merge back and forth. And when we looked at the sun, and we looked at the pictures that we have now over a year, I've got thousands of pictures that we're working with. And I showed it to the Hopi and the Maya, and they went, that's them. And when I looked at it and I showed it to the scientists, they went, my God, this isn't just light. This is not a natural occurrence.
All right. On that note and that tease, we've got the photographs on the website right now. You can go to Robert's website, of course, through ours, or see the photos on our website as well. So you might as well head up that way and take a look.
This is Premier Networks, That was Art Bell hosting Coast to Coast AM on this Somewhere in Time.
Back now to Robert Ghostwolf. Robert, welcome back.
We're back.
It's the first marriage and acceptance I've had on the air. So
Art, is it really true? You're becoming the medicine man of the airwaves.
I hope not. We were about to get into something very serious, so switching from something lovely to something very serious. Would you explain about the images up on the web right now, what they are, what you think they mean, what we're seeing?
These are NASA photographs taken by Soho. Let me explain. They're not taken as stills. These are stills from films that Soho runs. And what we did was take freezes from those films and catch images in various configurations and positions.
All right.
And if we go to the are you at the Stargate page? 2. We can go through this linearly.
Okay, listen, I'm telling you right now, there are going to be, gazillions of people going up there very quickly. And so it's going to be very, very difficult
I hear you.
For people to get to the specific photos. What we'd better do is tell them the full collection of the photographs is available on your website, which is wolflodge.org.
Wolflodge.org, or it's available on your site as well. Keith's got that loaded up.
Yeah, if people will go to my website, www.artbell.com, the one we were just talking about, and you scroll down to Robert Ghostwolf's name, we have put up selected images which you will be able to download right away. Soho 1, Cruiser 1, Soho 2, Cruiser 2, and Cruiser 3. So let us begin by beginning with Soho 1. Could we do that? Because everybody's going to be able to get that very easily.
Okay, well, what we have here is a photograph that was taken back in May, the still that was taken in May, and if we look over to the left middle part of the image, there's a disc in the middle, so let me explain the disc so people understand what they're looking at. The disc is a filter that keeps back the glare of the sun. As we're looking in the center of the disc, we're seeing a round circle, and the round circle represents the circumference of the actual physical sun. As we look to the left of that disk, we see what NASA said was a comet. They said they found a comet, so I said, well, where's the comet?
It doesn't look like a comet.
No, it doesn't look like a comet, even in this little tiny shot. And if we go down to the...
Well, even stay with the shot for just a second. Soho 1, it's very clear. It's very clear. Now, there's only two things I could imagine this can be, and I'm looking at the entire photograph. I see no other apparent anomalies. You can see a few stars in the background.
Right.
And they come through quite clearly. I see no other artifacts, what would be called artifacts, but this object to the left of the sun.
Which looks like the rear end of an Edsel.
Some would say a flying saucer. It kind of looks like a flying saucer, frankly, Robert. A ship.
Well, you could say that, but NASA said it's Mars.
Now, that doesn't look like Mars at all.
And there's a photograph on that same page that is the actual NASA presentation where they say, here's a comet, but if you look at the picture, the comet that they had, there's no comet. That comet doesn't exist. And then they say,
now you're confusing me. They say it's Mars, or they say it's a comet. Which?
Well, when this was discovered and questions were asked, they said that we discovered a comet. And we go back to the official photo that NASA put out, which is this photograph. And if we were to look at the upper left-hand corner, this photo's just below that. It says C 1998 J1 Soho. They have a picture of a comet, which obviously does not appear in the original film footage. Okay? It's just not there. And what we're showing here is what they have pointed out as Mars. And they said it was Mars because it has red glow.
I don't see the red. in this photo anyway.
No, not here. But if we go to
and B, Mars should appear as a round globe or a star.
Well, that would be my basic contention, is that Mars would look round, and it would be... This is obviously not round.
No, it's not round.
It looks closer to an image that Billy Meyer might have come up with.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. You said you're not all tight with the UFO community, and there's a center of brightness, and then there's a lesser brightness on each side of it, and one doesn't have to wander too far to imagine it looks more like a ship than anything else.
Yeah, it looks like wings.
Wings, almost, yes. But not Mars.
No, not Mars.
So this is an actual, unretouched Soho photo. Is that correct?
This is right from their film. This is directly from their films.
All right.
Now, if we go to the second photograph of Soho, I have an enlargement on the second page.
Showing the apparent structure.
Where we went into that specific area and we showed a blow-up enhancement of the structure. Now, this is not a comet. There's no way.
No, this is not a comet. But what the hell is it?
Well, that's what I'm going to ask people out there to wonder what it might be.
You know, when you look at the blown-up image, which of course is beginning to get a little pixelated because it's so blown up,
right,
you could imagine that it's a large, ungainly rock.
A large, ungainly rock. Well, if you go to the next page, we have an animated GIF that shows it over a time period.
Yes.
And your large, ungainly rock is obviously doing some sort of a new dance that I haven't figured out. I don't think that Mars moves like that.
Okay.
It's on page 4.
All right, getting to page 4 is going to be tough stuff because a lot of people are going up there right now.
And just below that, we have another enhancement of it, which clearly shows this is something not from this world.
What are you referring to specifically now?
When you get to the animated GIF, if you have the animated GIF up there.
I'm trying to get to Wolf Lodge right now, and it's already locked up, Robert, so you're going to have to provide descriptions for people. There's just no way I can say I'm not going to get to it. Again, we have Soho 1, Cruiser 1, Soho 2, Cruiser 2, and Cruiser 3, and the bulk of the audience is going to be able to get to those photos only.
Okay. Well, see if Keith can get you. He's got the whole site downloaded. See if he can get you to the animated GIF.
All right.
And just below that, we have another enhancement which shows that this is obviously not a comet. It is not a planet.
All right, Keith, if you could retrieve the animated GIF for us, and also you said the following image.
Just below that on the same page, which is page 4 on what he has, is another enhancement of it, a larger enhancement where we try to correct the pixelization.
Okay, and so what you're saying is whatever this is, it's...
Whatever this is, it's not behaving like a planet. At one point, we were even told that they were registration marks. I don't believe registration marks dance.
Dance? Well, I'll look forward to seeing that animated GIF. Hold on, Robert. We'll see what we can do. We'll see if Keith has it, because if he doesn't, he's not going to be able to get it. The site is already swamped, and I must admit, the first Soho photo, if you look at it, you know, that thing looks like a lot of stuff, but not Mars. I'm Art Bell. This is Coast to Coast AM.
This is Premier Networks. That was Art Bell hosting Coast to Coast AM on this Somewhere in Time. Premier Networks presents Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from December 29th, 1998.
Good morning, everybody. Well, definitely is the first marriage proposal and acceptance that we've had on the program. Wow.
Coast to Coast AM sure sounds great in the middle of the night. But you know, you don't have to be nocturnal to enjoy this amazing show. The Coast Insider is your key to a normal life. For 15 cents a day, you can wake up refreshed knowing that last night's show is waiting for you with podcasting. As a member, you'll have access to our monthly live chat sessions with George Noory and special guests. The Coast Insiders Club is a must-have feature for all Coast to Coast AM listeners. Visit coasttocoastam.com to sign up today.
Get a new view of the world with Coast to Coast AM.
At this point, I'm not happy with the direction that government is taking us. I'm happy with the fact that Americans are beginning to wake up and stand up and do what they have to do, and shout and scream and blog. And I think that's critical. And I think that's what's going to save the Republic. I think in the long run, as we go through all this stuff, it's the people who will save us, and our country will remain strong.
You're listening to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from December 29th, 1998.
Well, I've got it here. And you know what? Robert Ghostwolf is absolutely correct. This animated GIF, Robert, we've now got it up on the website.
Right.
And I'll be damned. This thing is going back and forth while the sun and the shield of the sun remains absolutely motionless. Mm-hmm. You can see the stars moving with respect to the position of Soho, but this damn thing isn't going in one direction. It's going laterally back and forth.
Oh, it goes laterally, and as people can view down the rest of the pictures later.
Holy smokes!
It moves from one side of the sun to the other side of the sun. It moves down to the lower part of the picture. It comes back.
Have there been any inquiries made of NASA about this? I mean, this seems really incredible. Now that I'm sitting here looking at it, this is amazing. And for those of you who don't know, you can go to my website now, www.artbell.com, scroll down to Robert Ghostwolf's name, and you'll see Book 1, Book 2, Website 1, Website 2, Selected Images, Soho 1, and so forth, and then a new one, Selected Image, Animated Cruiser, and this thing will blow your mind. What the hell could that be?
I don't think it's behaving like a planet or like a comet.
No.
It's just vacillating back and forth. It moves from one part of it's like the field of the camera. What we're looking at is the field of the camera that was actually on the films, and we're seeing it move, quite a distance back and forth. And this basically shows that it's almost like it's hovering back and forth. And as we go through other pictures later, or as people scroll through other pictures, they can see it from one side of the field of view where it moves, where it is now to the left. It moves all the way over to the right, to the lower corner.
Yeah.
Then it moves all the way back. Then it moves up. I don't think that planets navigate.
All right. So what do you think we're seeing?
Well, what you're seeing, if we can somehow get you to the, I have to figure out what you're calling it. If we go,
I don't know what to call it.
2 pages beyond that, I have some very interesting black and white blow-ups. They're called desaturated enhancements. which is where you take the color out of it. Remember we looked at the blow-ups with the color?
Yes.
Well, we did some enhancements of this that were desaturated, which means that we remove all the color value from the image.
Right.
Okay? It reverts it back to a black and white image.
Right.
Now, if you have those there, that's, I can tell you what page I'm on, because I don't know how Keith labeled where you are, but it's on page 6, if that means anything to you, or Keith can get that. These are what blew me when I looked at this, these black and white desaturated enhancements. They are obviously something structured. They look more like the SOHO satellite itself than this is not a rock. This is definitely not a rock. Now, have there been any responses from NASA? Every time the information starts to come out and we come out with more pictures and we present more information.
I mean, that is an obvious question. You would go to NASA.
It's an obvious question. What happens is the satellite goes down.
All right, I'm going to ask again. What is it you think we're seeing here?
We're looking at a light ship. We're looking at a very large light ship. We're not looking at some small little thing. And if you can get to the desaturated photos, the black and whites, this is a mechanical structure beyond any question. It's clearer to me, no offense, Richard, but it's clearer than the things that were done on Mars for 20 years. It looks like a motor, like a giant motor, and this is what's inside that pulsing light. This is the structure that's inside the pulsing light. So we're looking at what the elders say in Maya are the ships that are coming home.
At whatever is coming back. That's
whatever is coming back.
Is there.
Is there.
I'm sitting here looking at this animated GIF, and this is one that's freaking me out, because you can clearly see the stars moving as the stars would in a star field.
Correct.
You can see the sun staying stationary relative to the SOHO satellite, which it ought to, completely stable, and this damn thing is going back and forth. Impossible.
And again, you know, what we put up here is like the pinhead of all the archives that we have observing this. I'm talking about we have footage of this thing where you can actually see it go from one field side to the other side.
Now, I do see...
It moves up, it moves down. It's
right.
Obviously navigating.
Right, I've got you.
Or something's navigating.
Something's navigating. I do see 2 pixel dropouts, but they're very obvious as pixel dropouts and have nothing to do with this object in the animated GIF.
Right.
Sheesh. How far out is this object? Do you have any idea?
I have no way of estimating how far out it is at this point. We've turned this stuff over to some physicists who can probably figure that out.
Astronomers, I would think.
I think it's farther away than Pahrump.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah, the animated, the first SOHO photograph, the straight SOHO unenhanced photograph got me, but the animated GIF really got me.
Mm-hmm.
This is incredible. And what is your belief with regard to your belief? What is
my comment?
Yeah, your comment.
We're told that in this time, specifically as we move into 1999 and the year 2000, that there will be a war in the heavens, and that the war itself will touch upon the earth, and that our solar brothers are promised to return to help us. And when we look up in the skies, we're told to look for the lights, and look for even the lightning to take on different colors and become very strange. And if we think about some of the storms that we have been experiencing, we're seeing different colored lightning, lateral lightning. I mean, it's been an incredible light show going on over the last year, 2 years, especially the last 6 months. And we're told also that what we have to, that these will come back between December and February, and that they will watch the events that happen here, which brings us into more of the prophecies. But we're told that they are the watchers, that they are returning, and that they will be interacting with us. The date here is if we go to the winter solstice of 1999. That's when Venus will come up, and we're told to look for two possible signs. If when Venus rises, that it's white, it has the color white, the hue of white, that we would enter a time of great awakening, human compassion, incredible times, the golden age of peace.
Mm-hmm.
But if we wake up on that winter solstice date and Venus should rise and become the color of red, the color of blood, then we would move into dark times. And we would move into a time when we would see World War III, where we would see massive destruction upon the earth. And it would reach the point where if the destruction of the earth were at stake, that these brothers from the stars would intervene.
And you believe that intervention is on the way?
I believe that the audience is here to see what we do. If we are going to be so foolish as to keep blowing up atomic bombs for the sake of seeing who's got more, if we keep blowing things up in the ocean, if we turn around and experiment with HAARP waves and alter the weather patterns, there are things that are going on now in South America that we do not know the news of yet. We're told that there's flooding, we're told that there's mudslides, but what we're not being told, and I have lots of letters from friends in South America who write to me and say, how come the news isn't getting out about this? Where we see hurricane kinds of storms stay stationary in one area for 5-7 days.
I know.
Walls of rain. And when Richard Hoagland came out with the maps, and we were looking at the maps that were coming off, which my gal, Liz Edwards, is the one who's been archiving a lot of those maps that he's got. And we went through them, we found out that where these disturbances were happening were where these donut holes were. Okay? These perfectly...
Yeah, I was about to ask if you had any comment on the radar images that Richard had posted. He seems to clearly think they indicate weather manipulation, and you apparently agree.
It's absolute weather manipulation. I'm taking a bunch of archives now, and I want to get together with Nick Begich, Dr. Nick Begich up in Alaska. He's been on your show.
Oh, sure.
And he's the one who wrote the book, Angels Don't Play This Harp. And he's got a lot of technical information about how that works. I know what I'm looking at. I know what I looked at with Richard. When we were in Vegas and we did the Impact 2000, and we came out with the information and saw it as it was unfolding, and we found out that one, where these circular storms which create strange snow and ice and rain in a circular pattern, and then in a matter of hours they're gone. They just disperse. They're gone. It's like they were never there. But each one of them is over a military base. Every one. And the ones in North America that he took. Every single one is over a major military installation.
May I stop and ask you a question? As we noted at the beginning of the program with you tonight,
yes.
Speaking Wind is dead.
Yes, he is.
Now, I don't know how to ask you to comment on this, but was there, see how I can back into this, was there any history of heart disease with him?
There was no history that he told me in our conversations.
About
that at all. He had a lot of plans for the future.
Well, he was also, though, giving some information here on the air that many would consider very controversial, very upsetting to those who heard it. Prophecy, much as you are doing now. And do you
feel that he might have become a target?
Yes.
Yes. I strongly feel he was a target. People are getting upset now because the truth is coming out. It's no longer just people speaking it. It's like we have evidence of it. We have their own evidence, the scientific evidence of it. We have the evidence of diseases, manipulated diseases. I have so much information that's been gathered with people that I'm working with to back up what I spoke about in the Seven Thunders when I spoke about the green mist that would come and the strange viruses, these globs of jelly-like substance that fall from the sky, and specifically here in the Northwest. Mm-hmm. Very much so here in the Northwest. When something starts to happen, and someone's bringing out something that's controversial, that's not necessarily controversial, but when it starts to hit home, and when it makes people have to question the information that they're being filtered, then perhaps they don't want that voice to speak. In Speaking Wind's situation, he was a personal friend of mine. We had been working on some mutual things together. And he had some information that I don't believe they wanted to get out. He had information from ancient documents from Mayan elders that specifically detailed certain events.
Was that information that got on the air or information that never made it to the air?
Hasn't made it to the air yet. But it did make part of it, a small part of it, made it to the publishing companies and Celestian Prophecies.
All right. Shortly, what I would like to do is turn you over to the audience and allow them to ask questions, particularly those...
You have to get the black and white pictures.
...that have seen the photographs that are up there. Well, black and white or not, I'm telling you...
These show, I mean, this looks like it was put out in, out of the Brooklyn Navy Yard, which was still there. I mean, these things are better constructed than things we see at General Motors. David Adair would get a kick out of these.
So, this is the beginning of, or we are now entering the Seventh Thunder.
We are in the Seventh Thunder.
We are in the Seventh Thunder as of the 15th of December.
We've been here since June of last year.
Since June of last year. But you did give a specific between...
We were told about the visitations in the calendars, in the timelines. It told us that between December 15th and February, that there would be windows opened, and that we would start to see lights in the heavens, and that our star brothers would be returning, and they would make various landings, not necessarily on the White House lawn, and that many of these landings would take place at the ancient sacred sites, specifically that of the Mayan who we work with the most. The Mayans also told me of these return visitations where there would be ships landing in the Middle East, and that we should watch very closely what happened with Saddam Hussein, because he was preparing for this in his understanding and his belief. He understood these prophecies as well. So why would this be going on? This is not the War of the Worlds I'm talking about. This is not Orson Welles. I am not talking that something's coming to invade us. I am saying that here is evidence that has to be looked at. We have something out there that is not just a rock. And there's more than one. There's several of them. They are very big. They're tremendous when you look at them in comparison to the size of the sun. When you look at how they're moving on the film, and when you do various computerized enhancements to show you the different parts, I don't know how to put this in proper technical terms. So I'm going to say this. When you do a desaturated enhancement, you can see the physical structure. Then you turn around and you put color in it, and you can see the lights pulsing and moving. It's right out of Spielberg. The lights are pulsing and moving. These are organic ships that are capable of moving through.
You're listening to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from December 29, 1998.
Good morning, everybody. Robert Ghostwolf will be right back. This is Coast to Coast AM. May not have time. I think that's what we're saying tonight. That line always bears listening to. Good morning. Stay right where you are.
Take Coast to Coast AM with you anywhere on your mobile phone. CoastToCoastAM.com can be conveniently accessed on your iPhone and most Android platforms, which means that you are never without your Coast to Coast AM fix. If you're a Coast to Coast Insider subscriber, you can listen to the show live in the middle of the night or previous shows 24/7. Plus, you can browse all the great photos, videos, and news stories. Keeping up with Coast to Coast AM has never been easier with our Coast Insider service.
Looking for the truth? You'll find it on Coast to Coast AM.
Not everything is cut and dry, and I think people will look at events and say who profits, who benefits, and then they back into it with their theories, which many people would say are conspiracies. I mean, there's no question there's a facet of government that wants to take guns off the street. Not just assault weapons, but pure guns. They want to get them out of Americans' hands. In order to do that, you need tragedies and events like we had in Connecticut in order to create the stimulus to get the legislature and people behind that in order to say, you know what, they're right, we don't need this, we don't need that. So I think when you look at that whole picture, as bizarre as it sounds, because you cannot see a conspiracy at every event, but you will look at these events and say, see, this is what they've created in order to get people to think this way. Bottom line is people don't trust other people. And that's why they create all these things.
Somewhere in Time with Art Bell continues, courtesy of Premier Networks.
All right, very interesting. I'm getting messages from as far away as South Africa, listening to their show right now, listening to Robert Ghostwolf. Going back to him at the moment. Robert, you're back on the air again. I wish that we could say publicly what you told me privately. And we can't, can we?
I don't think so. Not yet.
All right.
There's a lot of information that the elders have, and I think I've gone through this several times on the show, previous shows. It takes a lot of courage to come up and bring some of these things out that they know, because their lives become very endangered, both from inside and outside, so to speak, meaning from inside their own circles to outside the circles. Just a couple of months ago, there was a real big meeting in New Mexico with some of the top people from NASA who called in native elders from all over the country because they presented the fact that based upon the way the world was going, it would take 500 years to put it back. But they felt that the native people understood ways that they could make this happen quicker. And what input could they put into what they told? And I just think it was incredible that NASA actually turned around and did this and called these native elders together down in Albuquerque.
Well, they must have had a reason. I mean, they must have had a reason. Normally...
Why do they keep watching the Hopi reservation, waiting for them to get ready to go underground? Because they know that the clocks are understood. I think that what people have to understand here is that there's some incredible things that are going to happen. This is going to become like a Hollywood movie, yes. But we do survive. We will survive. We come through this. There is something beyond this. We come through this, and we come through it better people. It's not the end of everything. It's the time of change. Because we have ignored all of the warnings.
All right, back to the phones. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Robert Ghostwolf. Hello.
Hi, my name is Stacy. I'm in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay, Stace, you're going to have to yell at us a little bit here.
Okay, sure. Is that better?
Oh, so much, yes.
I had two questions for Robert. One of them is I've never really heard anything about this fungus. Do you kind of watch what you eat because of it? I mean, wouldn't it be polluting our bodies?
Yeah, it's polluting your bodies. It's polluting your grain sources. It's polluting your water. It's polluting everything.
So, where do you get your food at? And
yeah, that's a good question, actually.
Greenhouses. It might be time to put up greenhouses. Then you can protect what falls down from the air, because this thing is sprayed from planes. And the planes fly over, you see them leave these strange trails behind them everywhere in the sky, crisscrossing. And all of a sudden, a few minutes later, an hour later, you notice these phosphorescent little clouds popping up. And then all of a sudden, it rains, and then it's gone. And all of a sudden, you'll notice, like, well, where did the birds go? They were just here yesterday, and I couldn't keep the bird feeders filled. And now all of a sudden, they're gone. This is something that we saw up here this past summer, where one day we had 30, 40 hummingbirds coming to the feeder, and then all of a sudden they were gone overnight. They were just gone.
So basically there's really no way around it. We're probably consuming it no matter what we do.
We are consuming it.
The other question I had for you is I told you I'm in Omaha, Nebraska, and we've had, like, the bizarrest weather this winter. Like, we've only had 2 dustings of snow, and we've had, like, 50-degree weather this December, and usually it's, like, in, 15 degrees minus or 30 degrees minus. It's really cold, and I think the weather change was really bizarre, and maybe that's something that's going on or the beginning of it already.
Well, that's your HAARP manipulations.
I'm sorry?
That's the HAARP manipulations of the weather. I mean, we just had 54 degrees below zero the other day in Montana, and just a week before that, it was in the 50s.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you, dear. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Robert Ghostwolf. Hi.
Hey, Art, this is Brad from Brunswick, Georgia.
Yes, sir.
I got a question. I found this thing on the internet. It said the Week of Tabernacles prefigures the seventh thunder, also called the 7 last plagues. I wanted to ask Ghostwolf if he thinks any of those plagues are upon us now.
We're in the middle of them.
In the middle of them.
We're in the middle of them. There's still things to be awakened. We have a very narrow window here where, depending upon if we lay down like sheep, where we stand up and don't allow it to happen, and we say, yeah, this is going on and this can't happen, then we can change things. But otherwise, the thing about the prophecies that I work with is to show that they're all telling the same story.
Even like in Revelations, people just aren't paying attention to it, are they?
They're just not paying attention.
Actually, the 7 thunders parallel the Bible.
7 trumpets.
Right down the line, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Robert Ghostwolf. Hi.
Hi.
Where are you, sir?
In Virginia.
All right.
Good evening, Brother Ghostwolf.
Good evening.
My question to you, I've heard several times during the show this evening, you said that the watchers in the sky,
Mm-hmm.
Getting back to the Soho photographs and the Sun Cruiser thing, are they organic things? Are they spiritual things? That's the first question. The second question is, I guess it goes along with the email that Art got a little while ago, is I sense a lot of worry and fear in you, and I was wondering as to why.
Well, I think I answered part of that. The other thing is that I am extremely upset over what happened to my friend Speaking Wind. There aren't many people who stand up and try to get the truth out and walk and wave hard. And it seems that every time somebody does, something happens, and then they just seem to disappear. Now, are they spiritual? My question to that would be, if man was not man, would there be spirit? So who's to determine what the nature of spirit is? Spirit is an anomaly that we try to describe, and we've spent thousands of years trying to describe it. And we say, well, it comes from the invisible world, and yet better than 98% of our world and what affects us is invisible.
True.
So spirit is a matter of interpretation. Does it matter if you're Indian or Hindu or Tibetan or Catholic? No. Spirit.
We're all brothers under the skin.
We all come from one mother, we come from one father. We all have the same needs, the same desires. What we've got to do now is eliminate the separation, because it's an illusion. There is no separation. We're just human beings.
Okay, and now you say that our brothers, our spirit brothers, or our space brothers are coming back, or that they're already here. What is meant by they're already here?
They're already here on this planet.
They've been here.
They've been here. They never left.
The Aborigines, so to speak, the original, the first ones.
The Aborigines, the Anunnaki, the people in the Hollow Earth, Admiral Byrd, all of the testimonies have been there. They never left. We live in a world that's very hostile. No aspersions on the man up north of me. But to find something and then bludgeon this being to death, maybe it could have been handled in a different manner. Maybe the dog attacked him. What would you do if you went to a place and suddenly you saw an animal that you never saw before? You never heard this noise before, and all of a sudden it was jumping all over you. You wouldn't know. Maybe it was an accident. But you see, the thing is, our first impulse is John Wayne. Our first impulse is to shoot, talk later. We better watch what we're shooting at, because there's something a lot bigger than us coming.
Well, I'd like to make a quote from an email that I sent to Art. I don't know if you will find this to be true. But basically what the quote says, if man continues on his present course, he will bring the downfall and extinction of his own species. In other words, we need to get back to living in harmony with Earth Mother and with each other.
We have to turn the car around.
All right. I appreciate your call. And west of the Rockies, you're on the air with Robert Ghostwolf. Hi. Hello.
Brother Art?
Yes.
Brother Robert? The Holy Spirit in me bows to the Holy Spirit in thee. This is Brother John in Tucson, Arizona. I'm a retired aerospace engineering scientist. At the height of my career, I took a little over 7 years off and spent the time on the desert in prayer and meditation. During that period of time, I also took 2 round-the-world trips in which I spent time with great spiritual leaders in every one of the world's religions. A good portion of those times were spent deep, deep in the Himalayas, at the feet of beings of light, and being taught by them, and then coming back to the desert and putting the teachings into practice. Everything that you say, Brother Robert, is so. In the visions that I have had given to me by the Holy Spirit, I have seen these Star Brothers come, and in these terrible times, they will take many, many, many of us up away from this destruction.
All right, sir. I appreciate your call, and there have been some people that have done that. They've sort of dumped their technical life and gone away and become spiritual.
Seeing more and more of it every day.
Yeah, it's really true. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Robert Ghostwolf. Hi.
Hi, Art. This is Richard from Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Yes, sir.
Listen to you on KWHN 1320.
That'd be the one.
I've got a question. Do you remember hearing a day or two ago that Iraq had shot down an unfriendly airplane?
They claimed it, yes.
And no one's claiming the airplane.
We certainly said it wasn't one of ours.
I heard Europe wasn't claiming it was one of theirs either.
That's correct.
So whose was it? Or was it an airplane?
Or was it a false claim? We don't know.
Uh-huh. But Mr. Ghostwolf was talking about the UFOs are supposed to be landing over in Middle East.
Well, that's a good point.
It's something to think about.
It's something to think about. I certainly don't recommend Iraq as a landing point.
I
Not a
don't
good
recommend it
vacation
either,
spot.
but you never know.
You never know, you're right, and I appreciate the call. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Robert Ghostwolf. Hi. Hello there.
Hello, Art.
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. Didn't know it was my turn. This is Mario from Klamath Falls, Oregon.
Yes, sir.
Enjoying your show on KGO here at 11:50.
Thank you.
And Mr. Ghostwolf, it certainly is a pleasure to hear you speak. Certainly, you've spoken some very, very serious biblical truths here tonight. I just happened to be listening, and as a matter of fact, this week I'm going through. The Holy Spirit is guiding me through the book of Revelation, and I kind of stopped short of my study today at chapter 9, and when I had turned the page this evening, chapter 10, verse 4 clearly defines the seven thunders. And you said two very interesting things early on in the show. Number one was that this is the time when time should be no longer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
And that's found in verse 10, or chapter 10, verse 6. And then what's really interesting when you talked about the prophets, and it says in verse 7, but in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, which you talked about, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as he hath declared to his servants, the prophets. Hello, Mr. Ghostwolf. So, may the God that created the heavens and the earth and the foundations upon which it sits continue to bless you. Born-again believers, I have a message for you. Open up your Bible, open up your ears, open up your heart. It's that time. God bless you, Art Bell. Have a great night.
You too, sir. Thank you very much for the call. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Robert Ghostwolf. Hi.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
All right.
You know, Robert, I'm listening to you talk, and it's all very, very interesting. And I hear a lot of people on Art's program who talk about the end of time and that we will endure. But they all of you seem to keep coming back to this fear-based thing, and I would like to put out there that we also need to reinforce in people that we are, even genetically speaking, so much more. There's a physio-spiritual connection in the human race that empowers us beyond any of the changes and the probabilities and possibilities of what might be happening. And if you can take masses of people away from that element of fear by empowering them with the knowledge that they can really transcend it, that not 1 out of 1,000 people can make it, but that all of us can make it, because spiritually and genetically we're wired that way.
We all hold that potentiality.
We do.
But it's a matter of us taking the responsibility of taking that action.
That's true.
If we turn around with blinders and say, no, this isn't going on, and we allow it to occur, and we say nothing, then we might as well have joined the hand of the aggressors. It's time now to say, no, this doesn't have to be this way.
Right, and more every day I hear people saying, you know, it doesn't have to be this way. And to me, that's a very good sign. People that are otherwise oblivious to these things and seem to not notice or to not care moment by moment, something will happen and you hear, it doesn't have to be this way. And I think that's a great sign. And another thing that I wanted to say to you about the Space Brothers, today at sunset I walked outside and I looked up at the sky and I saw this most amazing cloud formation. It was like a huge golden frame, sort of a rectangular shape. And empathically, I sensed the presence of some sort of sentient life force out there, and telepathically got the message, they're coming, they come. And I thought that was interesting. It reminded me, I was thinking about Alex Collier's talking about the flyby, and I thought, well, just maybe they are going to show up.
Maybe they won't come by in a form that we expect.
Yeah, that's very possible.
And again, the whole thing is, how do we respond as beings? It's like if you were to go out to the desert and have a spiritual epiphany and see a spiritual entity surrounded by glowing light, how would you respond? And that's really the message behind this is what's happening. It's not so much fear-based. It's a matter of, please wake up. This is starting to happen. What are you going to do? Are you going to take responsibility for it?
In the case of many, I sincerely doubt it, but that's pessimistic me. All right, stand by. We're at the bottom of the hour. My guest is Robert Ghostwolf, Matei, Native American, and he'll be right back. Stay right where you are.
The trip back in time continues with Art Bell hosting Coast to Coast AM. Coast to Coast AM sure sounds great in the middle of the night. But you know, you don't have to be nocturnal to enjoy this amazing show. The Coast Insider is your key to a normal life. For 15 cents a day, you can wake up refreshed knowing that last night's show is waiting for you with podcasting. Listen on your way to work and again on the way home. Or listen to one of over 1,000 archived shows from the past 3 years. As a member, you'll have access to our monthly live chat sessions with George Noory and special guests. The Coast Insiders Club is a must-have feature for all Coast to Coast AM listeners. Visit coasttocoastam.com to sign up today. You'll sleep like a baby, knowing you'll never miss your favorite guests and topics ever again. Remember, a 1-year subscription comes out to only 15 cents a day. Sign up today at coasttocoastam.com.
Get a new view of the world with Coast to Coast AM.
At this point, I'm not happy with the direction that government is taking us. I'm happy with the fact that Americans are beginning to wake up and stand up and do what they have to do. and shout and scream and blog. And I think that's critical. And I think that's what's going to save the Republic. I think in the long run, as we go through all this stuff, it's the people who will save us, and our country will remain strong.
You're listening to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from December 29th, 1998.
Back now to Robert Ghostwolf and the final segment coming up. Robert, here we go. First time caller line, you're on the air with Robert Ghostwolf. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Bell.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Ghostwolf. Mr. Ghostwolf. Robert, how you doing today?
Okay.
Where are you, sir?
I'm in San Francisco Bay Area, actually in Redwood City, and I actually had the pleasure of meeting you, Robert, kind of during the summer when you were here at Veronica's.
All right.
Yeah, I was there with a pretty Greek woman.
Yes.
Anyway, I had a question for you about, I'm very saddened to hear about Speaking Wind, and there's one thing that he said when he was on a show, and he mentioned this gentleman or this being called White Eagle, and I was wondering if you knew anything about him, whether, I wasn't sure if Speaking Wind had actually had a near-death experience or not, and then crossed over and met this guy in spirit and came back. And there's a bunch of books out by this White Eagle.
I don't think that Speaking Wind was speaking about that same individual.
Yeah, okay.
I think he was speaking about one of his ancestral spirits.
Oh, I see. Okay,
to my knowledge, unfortunately, I can't confirm it.
Yeah, well, I'm very sorry about it. I really wanted to even talk to the man too myself about it, but unfortunately, I won't get the chance. But I just got one quick thing too. Is my fiance seems to think that the San Francisco Bay Area is going to be a safe place to be through all these changes, and I keep on telling her about the rising ocean waters and all this other fun stuff that's going to be going on. And I guess Popo has not actually had the major eruption that it's expected, but like you said, when it does go off, the whole, it's going to go all the way up to the Cascades. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so basically you agree with me on that, huh?
Well, what we're seeing is that everything's building up. All events are building up to something. Yeah. Something is coming. All of these events cannot be a matter of coincidence.
Yeah,
and we're building up to something. But, keep this in mind. One, remember Speaking Wind's message to always come from the heart.
Uh-huh.
And if you come from the heart and live in truth, you don't necessarily have to worry about stuff.
Yeah.
Because things seem to work out.
Well,
the other thing is, one person living in balance, a lot of things can be happening right around you, and maybe you'll walk right through the middle of it.
I'm not worried about it anymore. I pretty much have come to terms with that.
But I wouldn't put a house up on the beach.
No, I wouldn't either. But hey, once again, I want to thank you for coming out to California and doing that. That was really nice of you to do that. I heard you don't do that very often. And Art, next time I go to Vegas, my fiance has a non-surgical lift mask. And you're doing all these TV appearances.
No, I'm not. I'm doing as few as I can.
Oh yeah. Well, you got your little webcam there. We want to make you look younger. No charge.
All right, thank you. I don't know if I want to look younger. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Robert Ghostwolf. Hi.
Good evening, Art. Robert. Just as observation and question. God does not give the spirit of fear, but of power and of love. Sound mind. And with that in mind, perhaps, Robert, is not prophecy given as a warning in consequence of those calamities which can befall us. But the one thing you brought up is that perhaps if we lose faith in doing the right thing and trying to address past injustice and be responsible stewards, and clamor for security and invite tyranny. And might this be the invitation to tyranny come as a wolf in sheep's clothing to invite the rest of these things?
All right.
I think it's a message that says you can change this all in a day. You can literally change this all in a day. All you have to do is turn around and come from the right place. All you have to do is stop living the paradoxes in your own life, and then a lot of that confusion will just go away.
Yeah, but that said, there does come a time, it seems, when prophecy becomes fixed as a reality that is either upon us or about to be upon us. And the Hopi said that, and I'll never forget it, that no, there was this great long pause. They said, it cannot be changed. It is now fixed, and that's why we are speaking, because it is going to happen.
We're at a point now where if we don't do something now, it's not going to be a pretty picture, because we're bringing that on ourselves. It's like, how many times do you have to tell a child, don't steal the cookies? They're too high up on the shelf. If you go up there and you climb that ladder, you'll fall down. And the child refuses to listen. It continues to climb up, and then one day it falls down. The thing is that we have done too many things in the opposite direction. And I also don't want to... I have no desire to spread fear, because I don't know fear. But anything can turn out to be a good day. It can always be a beautiful day. At the same time, yes, we are now at a precipice. We are at a point where either we turn it around, these things will happen. There's certain things that will happen. This is the end of time. Nothing's going to change that. I don't want to spread this illusion that all we have to do is be good and close our eyes, and everything will be okay, and someone will come and lift us up. This is not what this time is about. This is the end time. This is the time of responsibility. And if we don't take that responsibility as individuals for our spirituality, for our truth, then we will change nothing. Because we're coming out of the nightmare. This has been the nightmare. We're going toward the dream.
All right. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Robert Ghostwolf. Hi.
Hey, Art, how's it going?
Okay, sir, where are you?
My name's France, and I'm calling from Chicago, Illinois.
Yes,
and
sir.
I hear you on WLS.
The monster.
Yeah, the monster. Actually, I got a question for you first before I ask Robert a question.
Sure.
I was wondering on your website if you happen to have a list of the radio stations that you're on.
Yes,
because
we
I
do.
catch a couple of them DXing.
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay. So if I just click your site, I could just get it?
You can print it out.
Okay, that's what I'll do. Thanks. My question for Robert, I guess, I mean, it seems like almost most of my questions that I had for him have been answered already by all these different people, but it's just kind of ironic that I'm here on the end of the show. I've been calling for 2.5 hours on speed dial to get through, and I told my friend, I said, I've got a feeling I'm going to be on the show and I'm going to be one of the last callers. So since all that happened, I figured I might as well just go ahead and ask my question. And then when I called up, of course, here it seems like I don't have a particular question already, figured out. But I guess my question really is, for Robert, is what's your spiritual background or your any kind of religious background? What is, particular belief that you have? And since a lot of people have called up, and they've been quoting Revelation and the Bible and everything about this match and this and that match and that, I just kind of feel like I guess my question is, Robert, here this is going to happen. Nobody could stop it. I've been listening all night to the radio, dialing like a maniac to get into this show to talk to you. It's not so much what I believe or what I don't believe. It's inside. I don't feel nervous or scared about this. Let it come. I gave my life to the Lord Jesus Christ 10 years ago. I particularly don't even care, to tell you the truth. as far as spiritually, because I know I'm okay, I know I'm set. My question for you, though, is how are you spiritually? What's your background?
Okay. Robert?
I walk in a Native American way. I've done it most of my whole life, especially since my manhood. And I don't just do it on weekends. I do it 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And that path has brought me to meet many people from many spiritual walks, from Tibetan Lamas to people that come from pure light to Aboriginal people. And I think it's a matter of the spirits inside. You know, there's no label for what I am. It's not a religion. It's a way. It's a way of looking at it. It's a way of saying, well, this is the same Tunkashila, grandfather spirit that's in all things, period. It's in all things. It doesn't know a difference. We're the only ones that put differences on things.
This is interesting. Within the last year, there was an article in the science section of the New York Times about an international conference held to discuss the disappearance of amphibians everywhere. Australia, to Austria, to Boston, to wherever, all amphibians are dying and or disappearing. The circumspect scientists at the press conference were moved to inquire, could this be the canary in the mine? Owing to their porous skin, it has been postulated that frogs and company may be the first warning that our air and water have been polluted now to the point that life may no longer be sustained. And that really is basically what you said, isn't it?
Yeah. When the frogs go, the rain's going to go, the water's going to go. That's the message of the Kogi Indians from Colombia, when they said the frogs are leaving and the Andes Mountains are turning into a desert. When the whales go and the dolphins go, that means that we're going to lose our memory, because that's their medicine. That's what they carry. They carry the memory of the whole planet. When they go, we'll be like a hard drive that's lost its memory. And when these animals start to disappear, and the word is disappear, where do they go? How come they're just ceasing? When we see plant species that just disappear, well, it's a sign that conditions, regardless of what we try to perpetuate to justify our existence and our actions, something's happening on a major scale. Because most of these things that we're talking about, they cannot find the reason for it. There's no logical explanation for it. And the thing is that these animals seem to disappear before something happens.
No, it's true. Most of these science articles end in speculation, with the scientists saying, we're studying it, we don't know what's going on, we don't know why it's happening, we confirm it's occurring, the coral reefs, the Antarctic problems, the ozone, all the rest of it, we confirm it is occurring, but we don't know why. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Robert Ghostwolf. Hi.
Yes, good morning, Art. Good morning, Robert.
Hi, where are you, sir?
I am calling you from Stargate Records here in Los Angeles. I'm a recording engineer.
All right.
And I'm sitting here listening with my jaw on the floor because within the past few weeks, we just finished recording a CD by one of our artists called Oxygen. His CD is called Back to the Genesis. And this kid wrote 21 tracks that is talking about the same things that Mr. Ghostwolf has been talking about all night long, concerning the Anunnaki and the flooding and all the different things that are happening around the Earth. And I wanted to ask him, with all these references to these particular ancient prophecies and so forth, if I'm not mistaken, I remember hearing or reading something about the appearance of a false prophet that is supposed to try and deceive the earth, etc., etc., and
sure,
people will go off running behind that.
And the Christians would call him the Antichrist. Yes.
That's one of the questions I wanted to ask him about, and I also wanted to find out if there are going to be any particular safe havens. Like right now I'm in Los Angeles, and this is not going to be a pretty city to be in if things start to really happen in a major way, because there's just so many people concentrated in the city. And I wanted to know if you all were aware of any safer havens, I should say, where people could gravitate toward should the cities begin to shut down in terms of getting food and water and things of that type, basic necessities?
Well, I will put it to you this way, sir. If something did come down, I wouldn't jump in my car and desperately try to get to L.A.
Well, no, I'm going to be jumping in my car trying to get out of L.A.
Okay.
You know, the old movie Escape from L.A.? That would be me.
Yeah, all right. So a couple of questions there, Robert. The Antichrist, is there the equivalent in Native American lore with regard to, or prophecy with regard to a figure that the Christians would know as the Antichrist?
To my knowledge, there's not a particular entity. There's many things that tell us about people who would be leading people astray, people that would be coming up and using ancient knowledge that has been recorded for a long time for the purposes of manipulation, which is partly why the indigenous wisdoms are kept so cloistered and so close to heart, because they don't want to let that happen. There's no particular entity, but there is a realization in the Hopi that we have discussed in Circle and the Mayan, that there is an entity coming from the other world, the other brother, the younger brother, that will create great miracles, because he will understand these things that we know.
All right, we're woefully short on time. His final question was about safe havens. He didn't particularly feel safe in Los Angeles.
Well, to use old Indian wisdom, head east, young man.
Is that old Indian wisdom? All right, well, listen, we've come to the end of another one. I want to get it out for you one more time. You have a newsletter now that's brand new called The Wolf Report, and you can get it by calling one of two numbers, either 1-800-905-8367, that's 1-800-905-8367, or area code 509-465-1606. That's 509-465-1606. Robert, as always, it has been a great pleasure, only shadowed by the sad occurrence with Speaking Wind. May he rest in peace. Thank you, my friend. We'll do it again.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night now. Thank you.
That's it, folks. If you would like a copy of this program, you can get it by calling 1-800-917-4278. That's 1-800-917-4278. I'm Art Bell from the High Desert. Good night.